Thanks for staying with tonight. In 2013, Eldorado Park mother Darylene James wrote a letter to friends talking about her struggle. This is with her son who was struggling with a tic addiction. The letter going viral and others adding their stories to this letter. It was eventually sent to then President Jacob Zuma. Zuma visited the area, promised to intervene, and in fact was followed by a host of ministers and the provincial representatives during this visit. Well, to talk to us about what's happening in that community since is Darylene James. But before we talk to her, let's take a look back to 2013 when she addressed the president.
I have not even grasped the true reality that a letter that has been written to you just a few weeks earlier has in fact reached you. I salute our community this afternoon for coming out in your numbers, and that we are proud and not afraid of sharing without shame on this painful nightmare crippling us. Just to give you a bit of background, my son has done everything to get drugs. Dad, he has stolen from me, from his home, from himself. He has sold his clothes, his phone, our household appliances and items. He bullies his sister and his granny. He tormented us daily for money. And when we refused, he would go wild. This in his own family home. The devil, that is the drugs, has turned him into something else.
Well, to pick up on this issue, my guest, Michael Soon, he's the City of Joburg MMC for Public Safety. He joins us via Skype. Darylene James from the Yellow Ribbon Foundation, as you saw there, and Nadia de Grasse, a concerned resident from Bonteheuwel. But let's begin in Johannesburg with you, Darylene. It's been 5 years since you made that appeal to the president. Firstly, how is your son doing?
He's doing much better. I'm so proud of him. He's been clean for almost 3 years now. And in fact, just 2 days ago, he got his matric results and he's passed his matric. So wow. It's never too late.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
I can't imagine the anguish that you as a mother had to have been going through in order to pen that letter down and make this public appeal before the president. 5 years on, the obvious question would be, what has changed in the Eldorado Park community, in as much as your son's life has changed, but the broader community, the appeal to which you were bringing before the president?
I think Eldorado Park is still in a dire state of need. Just to give you the latest happenings in the area, on Monday, a body was picked up. On last week, Friday, someone was shot, I think something like over 26 bullet rounds. So the chaos continues, the drugs continues. I was just saying to friends of mine earlier on that the same places that were reported back in 2013 are the same places that's still operating today. Drugs is still rife in our community. I just feel like we're going backwards, even though a lot of NGOs and there's a lot of community activism amongst our leaders. But in terms of a more holistic, sustainable approach from government side, that is what we're lacking.
And certainly this is not an experience that's unique to Eldorado Park. Let's go to Cape Town. Nadia, perhaps you can tell us the experience of Bonteheuwel residents.
Good evening. Yes, I'm listening to the lady, and you know what? I can relate very well to the stories that she's telling. I can also tell you that within the last 4 years, we've had organizations that has been doing great work. We've had protests, we have had marches, placard demonstrations. We have started initiatives to keep our youth off the street, but there's only so much that we as a community can do. We have limited resources, we have limited time because most of us are working for bosses, and we can only do what we do in our community in our free time. We also firmly believe that not enough is being done by government and local government as well, and there is no political will to arrest the situation in the poorer communities and all over the Cape Flats.
Nadia, how much of this then results in communities taking matters into their own hands and committing acts of violence against those who they believe are the criminals behind the social ills that they have to fight through every day?
The community of Boncheville have not resorted to taking matters into their own hands. Nothing that I know of. There might have been incidents that I'm unaware of, but thus far I can say that we've always relied on authorities to do what they have to do in order to arrest the situation in Boncheville. Yes, there are drugs, there are shootings on a daily basis. Just last weekend, and in a period of 48 hours, 6 murders were committed in our area, and that we're saying is unacceptable. So yes, not enough is being done, and the community, fortunately, has not resorted to taking matters into their own hands. However, after what happened today, yes, I don't know how passive and how long our community will remain passive after what happened to us today.
And when you speak about what happened to you today, of course, some of the residents in your area had taken to the streets, didn't they? Give us more details.
Yes, because of the escalating violence, our community, in fact, Kensington Factoryton community had a peaceful protest last week Friday when they took to the streets and they blocked off some roads as an appeal to government and authorities to listen to their pleas due to the escalating violence in the area. Boncheville saw some videos on social media, and some community members felt that why can't we as a community of Boncheville do the very same and get authorities to listen to us? We had a meeting, community meeting on Sunday, where we elected a committee to be the steering committee of this protest that we decided will happen this morning, 29th, from 5 a.m. in the morning until 10 a.m. The community is fed up. We believe not enough is being done. And yes, we resorted to taking to the streets this morning.
All right. Thanks for giving us that update. Darylene, the situation in Eldorado Park is perhaps not necessarily that which we're seeing in Boncheville, because residents have taken matters into their own hands, resorting to vigilantism a number of times. And you, in fact, have on a number of occasions prevented people from being attacked and even shielded some that had already been attacked.
Yes, that just actually brought me back to that one incident that happened in our community. To be quite honest with you, Kathy, I'm beginning to feel like a stuck record. We have highlighted the issues of our communities, and we do highlight these issues all the time. We have politicians coming in and out of our communities, coming to listen to the pleas and the concerns of the community, but that's all we ever do. We never get beyond that. We never get to see, you know, what are the actions being taken in our communities. We never get feedback. Something starts and it is short-lived for a month or two, and then people drop the ball. Or we find that, you know, there's lack of political will, there's leadership that changes, and we as the community, we have to bear the brunt of everything that is happening. In Eldorado Park, it's 1 step forward and 3 steps back for years on end. Every time we have such interviews, every time we have opportunities to speak to political leaders, many promises are made, but very few are kept, and that is the reality.
In recent times, there was also the issue of lolly lounges, which had been put almost, you know, as one of the big developments that was really, I think, affecting young girls, and you were also involved in targeting some of them, trying to have some of them shut down. Is the situation still as it stands? I remember from one of the interviews that you gave saying that children as young as 8 are becoming drug addicts. Is that still the case?
That is the reality, and I tell you this because we run an NGO called the Yellow Ribbon Foundation, and we work with the 9 high schools in El Dorado Park. So on a daily basis, we see youth coming in and out at the organization addicted to substance, not being able to learn, dropping out of school, being expelled from school because they're attacking teachers, because they're attacking fellow learners. So that is what is happening in the area. Yes, it is still the situation where kids as young as 8, where kids as young as 7, they're just roaming the streets. There's no help. People have given up. You've tried to sort of call in the social workers. Social workers are dropping the ball. We're finding the same cases going back into the system. We're recycling cases where there's no follow-through, not with social workers, not with SAPs, with the operations. We find that we don't have enough visible policing in the area. We would start intelligence-driven operations in our communities, but you would never hear the results. We would never hear that X amount of people have been convicted, actually. We are no longer interested in stats-driven feedback sessions because arrests without convictions actually means nothing to us. Sure. Those people get arrested today, and 2 days later, they get out. So SAP says, you know what, this is a problem that rests with the justice system. The justice system tells us, you know what, the SAP's officers aren't completing the dockets and, you know, lack of information, the cases aren't solid enough. So where does that leave us as a community?
All right, we're going to continue this conversation. And the MMC of the city of Joburg, of safety, community safety in the city of Joburg, Michael Sun, he's, of course, been listening to this conversation. When we continue, we get his reaction. Stay with us.